So lean UX anti-patterns. If you follow some stuff I've done in the past, I've talked about anti-patterns, but usually it's around design. At Yahoo, I did a design pattern library, and then, it was pretty much about the same time I started talking about anti-patterns or what not to do. So when I started working with our checkout team to reinvent the experience, and then I started dealing with some other teams too, as we started trying to get them on board, I quickly realized that there was a lot of behaviors and also situations that would come up that would kind of create this sort of anti-pattern or sort of situation that would stifle our collaboration, our shared understanding, our ability to get to customers continuously, all those sort of things. I think I have 19 of these, so they're kind of. I think it'll be a nice way to wrap up. Just to kind of. So the first one of these anti-patterns is Genius Designer. Have any of you got to work with a Genius Designer? Yeah. You could take Steve Jobs as a Genius Designer or his team or whatever. He actually was a Genius Designer, right? But they can be a pain to work with if they're not. So you don't want to build an experience around a Genius Designer, because one thing is you may be successful and have that one Genius Designer who can intuit what the customer wants and it works, but you can't scale that. You can't take that across the organization, because to be able to, soon you'll have several Genius Designers that will all disagree with one another. So it's just not going to work. So if you keep the inspiration of the Genius Designer, take their ideas, but always take it back to the customer, so that the customer's voice gets in the equation, then that humbles everybody. It'll also humble the Genius Designer. I think you said that, I think, a little bit ago. I know my own background, was much more about design principles and design patterns, and felt pretty good about my design skills and figuring things out. But once I got in the consumer space, more so, I got humbled pretty quickly. It's, still feel like that I can get in the ballpark and understand things, but I still need that testing to get somewhere. So the Genius Designer is one of those anti-patterns that afflicts a team. You get a team together, you get the one person who's got all the ideas, and it just fights against collaboration. The other one is, the second one is tribal groups, right? And so we saw this happen within our team when we were really small. Like we had, I don't know, maybe 2 designers and 2 engineers, or maybe 3 engineers. The team worked really well together. But once we got about 4 or 5 designers, it's a content person, and then we got about 4 engineers, and there were a few product folks. Everybody started breaking into their little cliques, and even though they may be in the same room, they sort of huddled together and started, which is okay. It's fine. They have lots of things to talk about. But then what ends up happening is you really, we're by nature, humans are tribal. We form into tribes, we form into cliques, we form into groups, and these things will naturally fight against a team that's trying to take a real lean UX approach to try to to do a lot of collaboration, especially that's that whole thing of the guilds and the chapters that Spotify's talking about, right? It's put them across all the teams and stuff. You still have a need to pull those cliques and those groups together, those chapters and guilds, but it should be fully integrated in the team. And you have to watch it as your team size grows. If you have a team together, it starts growing. This is something that I've seen happen a few times, where the teams start kind of pooling together. We saw where about maybe a few weeks into the project, we had new designers coming on board, and they at some point decided that it was just too noisy, which is kind of funny because they're the ones being noisy. Because engineers are not talking that much; they're mostly coding, and they felt it's too noisy in the room. So they went off to one of our other. We had several war rooms that we had locked off, and they went to one of our other war rooms for a couple of days, just disappeared. We're like, where did the design team go? And they came back, and they had a new set of designs and everything else. Because they just were naturally getting into a tribal group. The newcomer. So, this is something that's you don't really want to underestimate the difficulty of this. You've got your team formed, and all of a sudden a new person comes in and joins the team. You know, you think, okay, well, here's the code, here's whatever, or here's the designs or whatever. But you've already spent some time with the team, and you've got working agreements, you've got a cadence together, you've got some shared vocabulary understanding. This person comes in, they don't have any of that. And if you don't stop and treat that like an event that's important, where you actually, you know, make sure that they get oriented, that you constantly spend time on the next, you know, few days, week, or whatever, answer their questions, making sure they have understanding, you know, really thinking through it, you'll really shoot yourself in the foot. We had a person who came on the team like second or third week, and she was really good designer, but she just didn't have the context we had. We'd argued through and discussed a lot of stuff in those first few weeks, and we all really had gotten to a good cadence. And so she comes in, and she's very strong, you know, minded, got lots of ideas, you know, she's real passionate. She was a consultant. Consultants, you know how they are. Looking at Mark here. You know, consultant came in. So, you know, we're kind of assuming, and it took me a few days to realize, you know what, she doesn't really have any of the context that we have. Plus, she's not even from PayPal. She's an outside company. So we had to spend time, and it was a little rough there for a week or two because, you know, she was kind of saying, well, I want to blue sky this. And we're like, this is like 75% of our revenue, you know, $3.5 billion. You only get to blue sky so much, you know. Our president set a direction. Yeah, I don't think we're just going to take your random idea. You know, I mean, it's one thing, you know, it's like, it's great, you got a good idea. But she had to get on the same page with us what we were trying to accomplish. And we had to spend a lot of time with that. We had another newcomer come on the team, and this was a weird one. Same company, but she didn't fit too well because she'd wear a hoodie and she'd put headphones on, and she'd sit there, you know, and do her designs but not talk to anybody. And at lunch, she loved to eat cucumbers. Big, gigantic cucumbers. Crunchy, loud cucumbers. And it's just one of these funny things where, you know, there's nothing wrong with cucumbers, nothing wrong with eating cucumbers at lunch, but it's just like this total antisocial behavior. You know, it was very obvious she didn't fit the team. She'd go out in the hall and text and stuff. We got rid of her in a few days because she was of the mindset that, you know, give me a task, I'll design it, you know, give it back to you, that kind of waterfall thing. And we needed full participation like you're in a startup. So never underestimate this whole thing with a newcomer joining the team. And also recognize early if they fit or not, you know. They may not fit at all.